Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Live with Liz. Happy Wednesday. If you have your cup of coffee ready. Not sure if people can hear me again this morning because I could not hear my intro video. So if anyone could shout out to me and let me know if you're actually hearing this, that would be helpful. Today we're talking about adding value with your legal services for your clients, and specifically about understanding your clients' needs and priorities to be able to do that better. And this touches upon some of the subjects that we've discussed before, but there are a lot of ways to add value from your law firm to the clients that you work with. And oh, that's awesome. I'm so glad you guys can hear me. Thanks for letting me know. That's good. Thought I was just talking quietly. No? Okay. Anyway, so adding value to your clients from everything in your law firm, the way you set up your matter management, the way you have legal technology investments, the way you set up your billing and your fee arrangements, what kind of legal technology creates efficiencies and makes things easier for access and communication for your clients. All of these things add value to the clients that you're working with. But there's this difference between knowing who your clients are and then having conducted maybe your competitive landscaping and everything else you did to set up the legal services you provide. You kind of identify your clients, you know who they are, and really understanding what their priorities are and truly being able to contribute to the success of their organization in a meaningful way, saving them time, saving them money, and helping them reach the goals that they may have for operation or expansion or regulatory compliance or whatever those legal needs they may have. And sometimes what I find is that you have a relationship partner at a law firm who knows the client, and then you might have people at the law firm who work behind the scenes on the associate level. Maybe you have a clerk help out here and there, a technical expert, but those people are not necessarily involved with the client, and sometimes even the relationship partner prefers that it stay that way and that they be the only ones with access to the client. And there are occasionally reasons that might need to happen in a certain organization, maybe to add value. Maybe that's for streamlined communication, but there are better ways. And I can tell you from having been in-house for so long and then working on the law firm side, there are situations that we come across over and over again that inform how we perform our daily tasks, what communication we choose to share with people, and whether or not we let you into the corporate world and the client world in the first place. So that relationship partner, it's very important because you want to be let into your client's environment to truly have the chance to know who they are so that they can rely upon you more and more, maybe for added services. Cross-selling opportunities might become something that is more possible for you if you're in their inner circle and have this understanding. So in-house, you would have all these priorities, a lot of different moving pieces. You've got the legal department probably driving the relationship, sometimes higher ups in the business, C-level people or heads of marketing, especially for those intellectual property firms, are reaching out to outside counsel, to the representatives at the law firms for information, for assistance. Often this is disjointed. Often you find that not a lot of people understand the inner workings of the company or why certain people are taking certain actions, why certain requests come about the way they do. I found this to be prevalent with the attorneys who would come to me in the law firm side and say, I've answered this question over and over and over again from my client, and they keep just asking the same thing. I don't get it. And on the corporate side, when we're reaching out and seeking advice and you end up with communications that don't necessarily answer the questions you're asking and that don't really meet with your expectations in terms of providing you valuable information about how to go about the tasks that need to be accomplished in a legal way that's in compliance, that achieves what you're trying to accomplish. I would look at these communications and say, well, lawyer, who you haven't answered this question, you've given additional information, you've kind of beaten around the bush. It seems like you're trying to address it by saying you don't have the way to address it, but I don't understand your answer. So clarity is important, but understanding what your client is asking and knowing why they're asking it, what they really need behind it, will make all the difference for you to be able to do that. So there is an organization, you may be familiar with it, called the Association of Corporate Counsel. And they have a law firm value committee, which has a lot of resources that are available, but one in particular that's online that I found very interesting that details step by step what you can do to be in your client's world. They don't frame it like this, but to really add value to your client. And they go by those big headers that we discussed before: offering alternative fee arrangements, making sure your legal technology is something maybe your clients wouldn't have access to otherwise, but streamlines their work process, give them a workflow that makes sense for them, communicate effectively. Your matter management efficiency and your office efficiency in general will help them. The training and professional development, which we've spoken about before, could also help them. But then there's a focus on client services and what you can do as a relationship partner and how your firm can offer more value to your clients, how you really get to know them. So I take from that some of the high level solutions and some of the ones that have been most valuable to me. When I was sitting in a company, I found one of the most valuable things that any law firm ever did was to actually seat an associate in our legal department and learn who we are for a certain period of time for a project. Maybe they had some, extra clerks available who could help. Because what you find, especially in publicly traded companies, especially in the United States, is that the people who work there are working their tails off and they don't have extra time for anything. And the extra resources that you can provide to them to help them for a little while, maybe at a very low rate or maybe even free. It's not free in the long run. You get a return on that investment. It's an investment where you really have someone embedded into their organization. They can learn the culture, they can learn the procedures, they can learn the workflows, they can learn all of the people who might have an influence in their decision making. And then they are trained to be readily available when the organization happens to need extra help, which could be tomorrow, because they, again, are very lean and they're relying on you to provide expertise that you can provide so much better if you've got someone there. Now, there are other things that you should be doing regularly as a law firm to know your clients' real needs and priorities, and maybe even to take it to another level and be involved in it. So the first thing is regularly checking in with your client. I know that's difficult in a pandemic. Things are starting to change. People are starting to travel again. Consider the client visit. It's time to start thinking about it. It's time to start planning for it. Maybe you want to be first back to visit those important clients and say, we're here, we're still here. We need to know where you are now. It's more important than ever to get an updated understanding of what their priorities are as things have shifted over the last couple of years. Maybe their staffing has changed. Maybe the organizational structure itself has changed. Maybe their expansion and growth and focus has changed because of the way the world has evolved. Yeah, that sounds so profound, I know. So this is something that it doesn't sound like it's that hard to do. I know it's difficult right now to plan those visits, but checking in with your clients regularly is so important for that. We've talked about doing client surveys before, but take that into your own hands at some point, and on at least an annual basis as your check-in, ask how things are going. Ask what their priorities are. Now, another thing that you can do as a law firm working with a corporate to really try and bridge this gap and understand what their needs are is find out when they have their regular legal meetings, how they make their decisions, when they're making those decisions. Offer to join them. Say, as a courtesy, I'd like to be there at your next legal meeting so that I can get a better understanding of where things are going with your organization and where we might be able to add value for you. And being in just one of their legal briefings or legal meetings can make all the difference as to how you provide your legal services, how you frame your communication with them. You may change the way you operate your legal services for them based on one meeting with them. And I would offer it as a courtesy, especially to those corporate clients, or maybe not if you already have the relationship set to really be able to do that and say, I should be there because I'm a part of your team. I'm an extension of your team and you can rely on me. and I'm going to prove it by showing up at your meeting, whether that's virtual or in person or what have you. It's important that you show up. Another thing that you can do to really understand the priorities of your client is ask them to present to your firm. So, and maybe even beyond that, ask them to present in general at a conference or a session that you may be hosting for educational purposes, but ask them to present. When they present who they are, what they're doing, what their needs are, especially in relation to a particular practice area that you offer, this provides insight and makes them feel valued as well. It's also sometimes an honor to be asked to speak, and it can give them business justification to participate in something that helps them as well as helps you. So this is a mutually beneficial endeavor generally for your counterparts or your clients inside the corporate setting. And it's something that is easy. You don't have to put out a lot in terms of time and resources to get someone to do this. Of course, their time and resources are valuable and short as well. We want to be respectful of that when we do it. And even if they say no, that request itself may influence what they think about you and how they value your legal services. So just making the request, even if they say no, could be helpful. And there are several other ways to really understand who they are. And I would suggest before you do your annual meeting, you take a new deep dive, and you don't want to learn from them if something is going on that's chaotic, that is public information. You should already know about it. So before you do your check-in, make sure you do your research and see, have they come up in the news lately? You know, if you're using social media or a social listening tool, there are a lot of legal technology tools out there and news technology out there that can alert you when your client is in the news and mentioned publicly. These things are valuable for you to check on. You know, you probably even know that you have those. You may already have those and not use them, but definitely check in on that before you have your meeting with them so that you're not caught off guard by something that they bring to your attention. And if certain things are happening with them, already come to them with solutions or with an opinion of what it might mean for them in terms of the legal work you're doing together. And that way you save their time. This is something else that goes back to that original communication issue where as a client, I have this expectation that when I ask a firm or instruct a firm to do something that they understand me, and sometimes that just doesn't happen. And sometimes you have to go back and explain things again. And I had another example of this where working for a large corporation, there may be a lot of legal entities involved that own different intellectual property assets, for example, or that license different rights with third parties. And that is something that I expect the law firm to try to understand. Sometimes I would have outside counsel come and say, well, why does it have to be this entity? We only have the POA, the power of attorney for this other entity, and can't we just switch it? And no, that's not the way it works, but I would gladly explain what that structure looks like and why we have it set up this way, rather than have outside counsel think we're just idiots by making these requests that don't make sense to them. And just that one inquiry, and instead of an assumed, annoyance that this request came from somewhere that just didn't make sense to you, just ask. And that clarification, any point of clarification, if you think you're expected to know, maybe you can do some research first. But if you wouldn't have any other way of knowing and you have this relationship, certainly ask for clarification on different things that you might not understand. Even if it doesn't necessarily seem to pertain to the exact instruction that you're being asked at that moment. Not that you want to waste anyone's time. We're all cognizant that people don't have a lot of time. That's why we try and keep Live with Liz to about 15 minutes and a cup of coffee every Wednesday. But this is something that doesn't take too much effort for you to be able to reach out and get a point of clarification. Of course, there are a few other things that you can do. Be mindful of the relationship. Include those other people on the team. But sometimes when law firms are presenting who will work on a portfolio client, I find that they're just bringing through profiles of people who have done certain types of work or might have been connected to an industry, but then those people kind of disappear. They're never part of a team. They're not a part of the ongoing communication necessarily. You're just showing, hey, we've got great people. I love that you have great people. What do they mean for the client? And how can they understand the client better too? Make it so that there are more people at your firm who really understand the needs and not just that relationship partner. So that's the gist of it for really understanding your client to be able to add value. And I definitely recommend checking out that Association of Corporate Counsel resource. That they have some free resources available online, even if you're not a member of the association, even if you're not on the committee. So if anyone has any questions about adding value for your clients from the law firm side of things, please reach out to us, solutions@firmforward.com. And we look forward to seeing you every Wednesday at 9 a.m. Central Time in Houston for Live with Liz. And with that, I will do my best to get this outro going, right? Take care, everybody. Have a great rest of your week.